everyone. A very warm welcome from our first inpatient forum since the pandemic here in Cork in Ireland. And I'm delighted to welcome Professor Mary Frances McMullin from Queen's University Belfast, who has been a stalwart supporter of MPNs and MPN Voice. Mary Frances, I feel quite sad saying this, that you're going into semi-retirement in August this year. You will be sadly missed by so many of your patients. I just wanted to ask you, because you've been involved really from the beginning, just your take on how MPNs started, where we are now, and perhaps where you think they might be in 5 years' time.
Yeah, so just to say at the beginning, I am, because the patients will get scared when you hear that, I am partially retiring from the 1st of August, but I will actually be working up to another 3 years, all in MPNs. So I'm dropping other parts of my practice. So yes, so it's interesting. I was appointed a consultant way back in 1991, scary that, and had an interest in MPNs from the beginning, and gradually built up my practice, had a dedicated MPN clinic over time and built it up. But MPN Voice came along, I think Professor Claire Harrison started it in 2003, and I would have at that stage had a fairly extensive MPN practice, so I became involved, I think, fairly quickly after that. And it was really very important because there was no forum for patients, there was no go-to place for patients. There was some information, but the really information about all diseases was really only getting going at that stage. And it has certainly built amazingly, as you know, only too well over the years.
Well, I think Claire Harrison said to me last year or the year before, it started as a tiny oak tree and we're now a great global forest.
That's right.
But you've been very much part of that because you're on our medical steering committee as well.
But it's really, where will that go? Well, I think it will grow and grow. There's more and more of it. Patients are better informed and want to be better informed. We're in Cork. Today we've spread to all sorts of places. We've also got, as we'll talk about today, MPN Voice has been absolutely pivotal in some of the research I've been doing in getting that up and going. Not funding the whole of the research, but the whole point is the starting, the getting it funding, the platform. And I think, where will it go? I think that will grow and grow.
We hope so, because MOSAICC has been, certainly for me, something that epidemiologists study. I have so many patients say, how I got it, you know, what is the cause of it? And the MOSAICC study is really pivotal. And in fact, it's the major study that, which started with you and Lesley Anderson in Belfast. But I think it's going to give a lot of people a lot of answers. Interestingly, I remember coming to Belfast at one of the early forums and sitting there, and there were 3 families that had MPNs in the family in the audience, which is quite rare, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. I do make, I mean, the MOSAICC pilot, as I call it, the one that MPN Voice started and funded and got up and running and completed, which is actually quite a long time ago now, was the biggest study in the world, produced a lot of information and papers, and of course we're now going to do a much bigger study. That's been a long road.
Well,
getting full funding.
And what's so exciting is there are 3 places in Ireland, Cork, Dublin and Limerick, that are all going to be part of the process.
We've been very, what I call, coveted, as if the rest of the world, which has held things up. But I think once we get that going, we'll have, you know, the Australians are still trying to join in, and we'll have a huge study. I will make a point, because I think it's always very important. People hear these stories and they think, they'll get the cause. And of course, it's not that simple. But we will get a huge amount of information which will move it along a bit, as we did from the original one. The other thing is we'll have, of course, a huge sample bank,
Brilliant.
which will lead us, again, lots of ways to go down. We now talk about genetic epidemiology and things like that.
It's also exciting. I mean, from those very early days, certainly when I was diagnosed in 1991, there was precious little accurate information. And it was really quite scary. And it was the early days of the internet, which was always dangerous to go on. So you're going to continue doing with the research element, are you?
So what I'm going to do, I have a contract, so for up to 3 years, I will continue. You have to do some clinical work if you're doing that. So I'll have my MPN clinic, which has been built up quite nicely, but I hope somebody will be gradually coming in to take that over so that that will continue. And I have a couple of local researchers that I want to get there finished, and then I will be very much doing MOSAICC and another trial in myelofibrosis that I've got to lead. So, you know, I'm trying not to, which is hard for me, not to take on any new projects.
I would think it's very hard for you.
But you know, to truly complete the things that I've done. And I suspect, you know, at the end of that period of time, I'll still be working, getting those things finished off.
And are you working in collaboration with Lesley Anderson at Aberdeen University?
Absolutely, yes. So Lesley moved from Belfast to Aberdeen to a chair, which was great for her point of view. But that has actually worked very well. A girl called Charlene McShane is still a scientist in the lab leading the Belfast part, so we've got a good footprint in Belfast as well, but also a lot in Aberdeen, and that's been another source of funding, which is always very helpful. And Lesley now, I think, has 2 PhD students working on MOSAICC. So once we get patient data in and samples, we will then have a whole load more stuff to work on.
This is so exciting. So again, from a really early beginning, and I know that so many of our patients have done fundraising for MOSAICC, specifically for MOSAICC. But so again, from a little acorn, we're building and building. It's great.
I mean, you know, I've said I'm partially retiring. It will not be me doing all of this eventually, but that's the point really, that we've built it up so that more people can come in. There will be 10 years of work, you know, from the MOSAICC study once it's done.
Well, all I can say is a huge thank you, and on behalf of the MPN community, you know, we can't thank you enough, because well, I've known you now for a number of years, and we've seen tiny little forums grow into big patient days, and it's just wonderful to be back connecting with the patients. Mary Frances, thank you so much. Genuinely, thank you for everything you do for us.
It's been a pleasure, and it's always a pleasure to work with MPN patients.
Thank you.